If I hide the topic, will a person reading the question guess this was a topic from the questions? Empathy is less about accommodation and tolerance. It's more about acceptance and respect. Curiosity, what lies beyond? Let's go and see. Introspection-based learning. The next short themes is introspection. You'll find a lot of topics are about this. Okay, learning about yourself. एक तो direct question था that self-discovery has been outsourced. Okay, a straight question asked on introspection. ठीक है? Again, I'm keeping one thing in mind. The last wala part I remember, way forward, as a part of solutions, as a part of what can be maybe some of the reforms. Okay, what can be the interventions? Interventions में ये आ जाता है. Introspection, not just at the level of a person, but even at the level of a society. Introspection is something like, a reviewing type. So you've had this National Commission for Review of Working of Constitution also, right? So if I give you what are the words, what are the alternate words for introspection? So we have looking inwards and reviewing. Introspection is like deep self-analysis. Introspection is an objective awareness, important word hai. How something works internally. Introspection is about an honest viewing of one's own self, in particular, one's own mind. Introspection is a mind thing. So if you look at this word, primarily it's about individuals. It's about thinking deep into or within one's mind at an individual level. It operates. But then we understand introspection can also be at the level of society. It can be at the level of even any institution, okay, any working. जिसमें कि आप एक honest view ले रहे हो of the working, an honest assessment of what we are not. So when you say introspection, do not keep it to the individual alone. Take it towards society. That India as a society must have introspection. The country as a nation should have introspection. Parliament as an institution must have introspection. So you can use this word. हालांकि originally it was an issue of individual introspection. आप इसमें भी use कर सकते हो at the level of society. Because see, जब भी आप बात करें about any reforms, you talk about any corrections, you talk about any readjustments. There are two ways of doing this. Please keep writing the points. Okay, don't see this as an essay. आप points लिखो आप. तो जब भी आप कोई भी reform की बात, any reform, and every essay has one dimension of reform. Like a reform around democracy, culture, reforms of police reforms, reforms of governance. जब भी आप reforms की बात करें, there are two ways of doing it. One is forcing it from outside, forcing it externally. Okay, और एक है, okay, the changes coming from within. Of these two, the more enduring ones are those that come from within. The more enduring ones, the more effective ones, the more long-lasting ones are from within. And for this, the only way is a deep introspection. I mean, look at the reference I can link it to. Talk about India's Uniform Civil Code. Talk about India's objective of women issues. India's issues related to conflicts. India's issues related to inequalities, discrimination. आपने 70 साल लॉस चलाया है. You have tried your best, but dowry continues. You have tried your best. Our communal conflict continues. You have tried your best. Your discrimination continues. In some cases, ये बहुत deep entrenched है. So the point is that if a society really wants to change over, it has to come from within. Okay, that's why, while the constitution is at a different plane, एक अलग ही vision है उसके what it wants to do. But at the grassroots, at the level societies, many cases we are going the reverse direction. Okay, that's why I'm saying it's very important to have leaders who are leading. Okay, that's why the way Gandhi ji thought and the way he led is not necessarily what society always wanted, and that's why there was a conflict. So I'm not discounting the fact that the leaders are important. The leaders have to drive. It's very, very important. But that must happen along with the society also introspecting. Okay, that's why I'm saying that your concept of introspection ideally is an individual thing. Okay, we talked in terms of individual corrections, individual changes, individual self-actualization, individual and his forgiveness to be here. But I'm saying take it towards this also. A society must introspect, an institution must introspect, a nation must introspect. That is one insight for you. Next point, next very important point is introspection is related to thinking. It is related to thinking and related to mind. देखो अगर आप एक company देखें ना, if you look at a company, any institution, there is a thinking behind the company. There are departments who perform some jobs. There are operations carried out. There is a hiring going on. There is training going on. A company will require product development going on. ये सब चल रहा है. But introspection works at this level. It is not so much about, इसको हम बोलते हैं the physical aspects. Like for example, in a human body, a mind is thinking. Mind is imagining. और एक है the heart is working. और एक है your blood is moving. और एक है you are breathing. So when I use the word introspection, you start with the mind. What does your mind think? And then we talk about what that happens to your body. So essentially, when you're talking about reforms, जब हम reforms की बात करते हैं, there is a vision element to anything. And then there are the actual behaviors and activities. So when you are reforming, when you are changing, okay, these are set of acts. अगर आप religion देखें, religion is what? Okay, some belief systems plus some acts. Okay, you doing the puja is an act. You having the namaz is an act. You going to a church is an act. You giving alms is an act. You probably setting aside some day for something is an act. Introspection is more about this one. Okay, what exactly is your idea of God? What exactly is you want from the God? What exactly is you think about the God? Then you talk about how can your puja be different? How can the rituals be different? How can your act of helping somebody can be different? ये बाद में आता है. So introspection is a vision, is a thinking, is a mental thing. Okay, it is not so much about the physical acts. Okay, physical acts बाद में आप करना उसको. You can rectify that, you can change it. Why I'm saying this? So think of India's reforms required, say in economic growth and development. So reforms required like let's make more roads. Reforms required like let's have India making things so Atmanirbhar Bharat. Reforms like we must be energy sufficient, self-sufficient. Reforms like agriculture. But इस सब के ऊपर में a very important idea कि how do you see India as? What are you seeing India as? Are you seeing India as a vibrant country which is helping the world, which is a leadership country? Or are you seeing India as a powerful military economy and dominating the others? Are you seeing India as a society where people live happily and prosperous? So अगर आपको changes करना है and you want to effect some important goals, so एक तो है okay, the acts, let's make more roads. और एक है think on the whole idea called India. Okay, think on the whole idea called Indian society. Introspection यहाँ काम करता है. If your idea is that you want to become a military power and dominate the world, फिर सब कुछ यहाँ accordingly change होगा. If the idea is India is a happy, nice society, doesn't matter if you're not rich, फिर आपका यहाँ पर कुछ और हो जाएगा. Okay, India is a challenge to China, अगर वो develop करना है, फिर यहाँ पर कुछ और होने वाला है. So point here is, introspection is not simply reforms. Introspection is not simply thinking what to do. Introspection is at the deeper thinking level. It's like questioning, okay, the whole existence idea, questioning the relevance idea. So हमारे discussion में this is the point, that introspection is like an act of reviewing, but the review is not so much about the actions and what we do. It is about assessing how we think, what we think. It's about emotions that we attach and how we feel about things. Next point, at a society and at an institution level, introspection is more at the level of vision and purpose. That is why introspection cannot happen by observing others. Now that's an insight for you. Ab dekho, when I talk about insights, introspection is like insight. I talk about maybe some learning about one's own self. There are two ways of doing it. One is vicarious learning. What's vicarious learning? You watch others and learn. Okay, that see, he was angry and therefore he slapped somebody. The consequence was the guy got hurt and this guy was punished. So learning for me is don't be angry. Okay, oh, this guy was working hard and he therefore qualified, doing great in life. Therefore, I must work hard. I saw a movie, and the movie, how bravery was rewarded, how bravery is adulations. So I want to be brave. You are learning by watching others. Is learning from examples. और एक learning है that comes from within. It is introspection based learning. हम इसकी बात कर रहे हैं. Why is introspection important? Like you watching motivational speakers. अच्छा लगता है, you feel nice for a couple of days, couple of hours, and you want to do that. It ultimately fizzles out. Okay, this is your external motivators. और हम बोल रहे हैं, introspection is not this, because introspection is about mind. It's about what we think. It's about how we are visioning things. You cannot learn effectively by this. I'm not saying कि गलत है. इसका भी अपना purpose है. But introspection based learning is basically turning inwards. That's why I said this is more enduring. And ये कहाँ पर apply होता? Think of reforms again. China did something, they did well, let's do it. Like the US did something, they did well, let's do it. Like Russia did something, it got wrong, we'll not do that. That's this one. But this is about you thinking about कि India अपने आप में है क्या? What India was, how India has developed, what our idea of India is, what we as people are. Okay, who are we in terms of our purpose, our goals, our dreams? Who are we in terms of our beliefs? And then think about what India should do. ये बहुत अलग होगा आपका trajectory. So introspection, like if I sum up here, introspection is a mental thing. Introspection is turning inwards. Introspection fundamentally operates at individual level, but it can operate at society and at national and at institutional level. Introspection is not about the physical acts. It's not about evaluating the physical acts. Now think of this. You talk about crimes, you talk about punishments. Our system is such that we are more into punishments. आपने murder किया है, so you are 5 years in jail. Or this act, so I'll do corrections, I'll teach you, okay, 3 years in jail, a rigorous punishment. और एक होता है reform based approach. Okay, corrections to कराते हैं. There we say that we should not be focused on acts alone. Come back here. So even the wrongdoers, like even those who have transcended laws, they require introspection. They require conditions, okay, where they can actually look into and ask for how they can themselves change. This is a culture that we have in Christianity. Heard about the act called confessions? ये सुना आपने? The confession box in churches में होता है. Confession box is essentially go and talk it out with all sincerity, go and talk it out, okay, with all honesty. And in the conversation, try introspecting where you are wrong. You acknowledge your wrongness, you acknowledge your mistakes, and then come out more liberated. So the act of confessions, इसी से होता है a very important role that religions play is this act called as pilgrimage. Pilgrimage is, so ये pilgrimage का act है where there is some element of isolation, there's some element of arduous task. It includes an element of submission to the Almighty. It includes the act of sitting and deep meditations. ये सारा essentially कहीं ना कहीं it's about introspection. So there are some acts bolo, like rituals that force people to introspect. And we are discussing what does it mean and how is it done. Yes, meditation, absolutely. Sit quietly, meditate, do your yoga, meditate. Watch your breath. That's one way of meditating. Essentially, you are trying to access, in introspection, the objective is to access one's mind. It's about reaching the depth of one's thinking. और ये करने के लिए, to access one's mind and to do this, the tools we have are meditation. The tools we have are yoga. The tools we have is pranayam. The tools we have is, you have pilgrimage. इसको हम कहाँ use करेंगे? When you have essays on cultures, when you have essays that talk about self-corrections, you'll bring a dimension called introspection, write about it. How these are important, relevant ideas as a part of one's own growth and learning. So introspection ka ek bahut important aspect, I repeat, is access to one's mind. It's about reaching the depths of one mind. Next point here. Introspection, a very important point here. Now, introspection, because it's about one's mind. Introspection is the foundation of many knowledge and understanding. And introspection-based learning is more enduring. Introspection-based learning is more effective. It is more direct. Four things. Because introspection is about one's mind, what one is thinking, how one evaluates. Introspection is the foundation of all knowledge and understanding. We say, if you look at philosophers, यही करते थे. So introspection is the foundation of all learning. Introspection-based learning is more enduring, it stays longer. Introspection-based learning is more effective and it is more direct. इसका opposite क्या होगा? The opposite of introspection-based learning will be a sensory or a physical act-based learning. This is experience and teaching-based learning. I have to establish 3-4 things for you. One is establishing introspection is a mental thing. It's a mind thing. Introspection is looking inwards, अंदर देखना है. Why? Because introspection-based learning is this. It's more effective. It's more enduring. It's more long-lasting. It's more direct. Because this is based on your deep ideas. It's more direct. That is why you can now relate to the virtues of contemplation, the virtues of engaged and thought-based learning, what we call as deep learning, the idea of inner engineering. So this is one learning for you. Now, यही idea को, I'll say that you talk about any conflicts, you talk about society में, the turmoils we have. In society, the restlessness we have, urban life, nuclear life, competitive life, corporate life, okay, the challenges of a student he undergoes. The solution to these problems is again introspection. आप कोई भी issue उठा लो आप, that Russia must introspect, okay, Ukraine must introspect, NATO must introspect, India must introspect, Pakistan must introspect. Any conflicts, because somewhere the roots are in what we have done because of what we have thought. You fought a war on terrorism, you kind of literally cleaned up a society called Afghanistan, and then you walked out of Afghanistan, the Taliban takes over again. This requires introspection. Who are you as a country? What do you stand for? What are you promoting? What is your conviction? What is your belief? एक पैराग्राफ बन सकता है. Okay, this is like almost like a moral basis of questioning. What are we doing? Climate change requires introspection. Okay, इतने साल हो गए. I mean, it is almost without doubt that the world is today moving towards unprecedented climate change. कोई ऐसा country नहीं है जहां पर we do not have floods and droughts. Okay, you're talking about Delhi getting flooded. Okay, so has US, so has London. But that is no excuse that Delhi must also have floods. I saw an article, some of them wrote this. Yeah, what are you so upset about? ऐसे countries में भी होता है. अरे, वो थोड़ी excuse है. भाई लोग गिरते हैं, मर जाते हैं, तो हम भी मर जाएं साथ-साथ अभी. What is reason is that? So many introspection we require. What is it that we have done? What we have thought, the way we mobilized. Why can't we move more decisively towards climate change actions? इसमें कौन सा rocket science है? I remember an article I was reading, I don't remember who said this. He was saying, I don't understand, why is it so difficult for the world to accept that the world is burning and roasting because of climate change? And we have got no other recourse but to step back and rectify it. आप नहीं करेंगे, आपके बच्चे जल जाएंगे. Okay, we don't have as much time. इसमें कौन सा rocket science है? It is a very simple thing. Now go do it. This is where I said introspection is an idea. Don't keep it to meditation alone. Take it, apply it to different dimensions. हमारे हर program में आप ये डाल सकते हो. After, I mean, ये जो, remember the essay we had? History repeats itself. Yeah, first as a tragedy, then as a farce. It requires introspection. The world is full of examples of madmen rising to power. कल ही पढ़ रहे थे about on Twitter how Germans ran this program of pure race, where the agenda run was that they have to produce babies who are pure race babies. Okay, and it says almost 250,000 children were abducted because they're part of raising a pure race. बच्चों को लेके गया, God knows what they trained them. After the war, they could recover only 25,000 of them. It was society gone mad. Mad after superiority, racial issues. Okay. And people who were, or children who were found to be not pure were eliminated. I mean, you literally are raising what? Broiler chicken types. कि भाई ये अच्छा नहीं है, इसको फेंक देते हैं. You're creating a product. Shirt बना रहे हैं आप लोग. यहाँ का अच्छा stitch नहीं है, इसको फेंक दो. You require introspection. I forget that event's name. मैं देखता हूँ. If it's there on my Twitter, though I had saved it, I don't remember it. Yes, it is. It's called as Lebensborn Project. L-E लिख लो आप. Lebensborn. Lebensborn Project, run by Heinrich Himmler. H-E-I-N-R-I-C-H. Heinrich Himmler. It was initiated in December 1935. And the same year when intermarriage with the Jews was abolished, considered a crime. Can you see this signs in our society today also? And the project ka objective tha, okay, look at this, I'm reading it out. It says, Germany had been experiencing a decrease in death rate, in the birth rate. Himmler's aim was to reverse the trend and to boost the Germanic population to at least 120 million. To achieve this, he encouraged men who were considered pure race to have children with Aryan women. And according to Himmler, the children born under the Lebensborn Project would grow up and become the future Nazi leaders of an Aryan state. In 1939, Lebensbaum program had failed to yield, okay, whatever. One of the horrifying aspects of the policy was abduction of children deemed superior from parts of Eastern occupied territories, Poland essentially. Okay, right from 1939, some of these children were taken as orphans. They were forcefully separated from their parents. Okay, and whatever. And Lebensraums, they built centers of Germanized centers, and up to 2 lakh children were abducted from Poland alone. And it says by 1946, 2,50,000 children were adopted, and unfortunately only 25,000 were recovered and reunited with their families after the war. So a society, talking about the problems we are facing, we need introspection. Why does history repeat itself? We are almost close to a third world war now. You have no idea who can go crazy here. We're almost at the edge of another irreversible climate change process. At the rate at which Antarctic is melting, the rate at which Arctic is melting, we need introspection here. So introspection as an idea is a deep thinking, analysis, inward looking, not just for education, but also for solving conflicts, turmoils. It's about addressing some of the pressing global problems of the world today. And जो हम बात कर रहे हैं ना, ChatGPT, what can it do? Okay, what can AI do? It requires introspection. What can cloning do? It requires introspection. Okay, and feel free to quote Yuval Harari, Yuval Harari, in his book *Sapiens*. Okay, so you can add one point. Introspection is a state of honest self-awareness that increases the ability to control one's emotions and one's actions. It's a great tool, not only to reduce stress and anxiety, but for providing a greater sense of well-being. Introspection builds a deep fortitude within. जो courage चाहिए हमें, it builds a deep fortitude within. Introspection is the most effective tool in overcoming regret and guilt, and to ride out the emotional turmoils. इसको मैं relate करता हूँ जो students का, the turmoil that they have, and recently the spate of suicides that we have. Something I talked about yesterday, that we need to have skills to maneuver in this ambiguity. I mean, world was never as complex as it is today. The uncertainties were never as much as we have today. At the same time, there's a lot of blurring of moral boundaries. Okay, suddenly, see, life is very easy when the lines are drawn very strongly. You do this, it's a taboo, no questions asked. Life is simple. If you cross mat karna, kaam khatam hai. It's very simple. You're told these are do's, you do this, will reward you. You exactly know what to do. But the problem here ho raha hai, there are opportunities, there are technologies, man is curious, and man will cross boundaries. So in our times we live today crossing boundaries bahut aasan hai. So earlier, the physical boundaries were strong, the moral boundaries were strong. Like the do's and don'ts were very strong. Today, we have technology, we have exposure, we have opportunities, we have changing value systems. I repeat, there is exposure, there is technology, there is changing value systems, there is essentially curiosity. Isme kya hai? Crossing boundaries are very easy to cross boundaries, but the consequences are always uncertain. The consequences are ambiguous. I mean, look at the example, when the whole process, I'm looking at last 2-3 saal pehle, we all talk about, how phone is bad and how screen time is bad and how TV time is bad. बहुत बात करते हैं. Somewhere I promised myself कि यार कुछ भी हो जाए ना, बच्चों को बड़ा रखना है strict. Will not expose them to phone or not give them a phone. And 2 साल पहले एक law बन चुका था घर में कि कोई phone नहीं मांगेगा until you're 18 years of age. But trust me, everything has gone for a toss last 3-4 months. The daughter who is 13, 14 years old, I'm forced to give her a phone. Tuition जाना है, school से message आता है WhatsApp में, projects आता है WhatsApp में. They form this team to do projects. Again, her classmates are on the WhatsApp. And I was resisting कि यार क्या जरूरत है करने के लिए. जब मैं घर आऊं तो मेरा फोन ले लेना. Ask her mother, she has the group, but only as much I could have done. Finally, I said, now you have to have a phone. अब have to have a phone. She must have a WhatsApp now. Once WhatsApp, phone, internet, the boundaries कहाँ cross होता है, it's impossible to check now. Okay, I passed a rule. Last week की बात हो रही है. I told कि she had an old phone. She broke her phone. She kept saying, Papa, I want a phone. I kept ignoring. ये नहीं देना है phone, बस survive, because there was a time we have lived without a phone. I went back home 3 days ago. She had a phone. Her mother took her and bought a phone. Papa देंगे नहीं आपको, you need the phone. I was in introspection mode. Now this is defiance बोले कि this is the times we live in. The fact is, even I look back, I said, yes, it was a bit rigid on my part, because she feels the class, she's cornered. उसको कोई ग्रुप में ले नहीं रहे हैं कि तेरे पास तो फोन ही नहीं है, तू कर ही नहीं पाएगी. Her teachers are upset. We are in extra class and you were informed, but you have not come on the class. And then she's upset कि we are losing that connectivity and all of that. So fundamentally, I said, okay, fine, you have your phone. Example, we have easily crossed the border, no? 2-3 साल पहले, I would say in the class, no social media. Now I tell, go to Twitter. वहां पर बहुत content है. You can study from that. You enter Twitter, lines are blurred now. So in the world where things are so fluid, you are bound to have depression, doubts. Okay, you're bound to even question morality sometimes. एक time था, हमें पता था, anybody who is a sexual deviant is a bad character. I grew up like that initially. That he is a bad character. We would laugh at them, we would snigger at them. We had terms for them. Last 10-15 साल में, the whole thing has changed now. Now I'm wondering, क्या ये लोग बुरे हैं कि हम ही लोग बुरे थे यार? The more you read, you find कि सब कुछ blur हो गया, right? This blurring causes lot of distress. Okay, we are used to performing at a peak when things are predictable. आपके साथ प्रॉब्लम क्या है जीएस में? सर सिलेबस पता नहीं है क्या पूछने वाला है. हम ये पढ़ेंगे, वो पूछता है, वो पढ़ेंगे, ये हम पढ़ तो रहे हैं सर, क्वेश्चंस नहीं आ रहे वैसे. सब पढ़ लिया, चॉइस चेंज कर दिया, only 1 correct, only 2 correct, only 3 correct. This is your problem, right? If you are told a very fixed syllabus, ये पढ़ो, इसी से आएगा सवाल, you would have done very well, and even at peace also. So now you need introspection. Go back and question your mind, your thoughts, what's troubling you. So you're looking at the turmoils, and I'm linking the turmoils to our student life. I'm linking the turmoils to our society. इसका solution introspection में ही है. मणिपुर conflict, it's an introspection thing. कि क्या हम ऐसे कर रहे हैं? I mean, as an outsider, it's such a stupid issue, no? Land किसका होगा, कौन कहाँ रहेगा? इसके लिए क्या तुम मार दोगे किसी को? Okay, you have an ambulance, you'll burn the ambulance. I mean, I can't even imagine. But trust me, when I'm in the crowd, I do not know how I'll behave. I'm a very different animal in the crowd. Thinking कि rights में कैसे लोग होते होंगे कि that they can kill children and maim women and rip their heart apart and their abdomen apart. Hey, can we even do that? But trust me, when you are a mob, when you're a group, your mind goes for a toss. That's where society needs introspection. So जब भी आपका debate या essay is moving towards these issues, have a paragraph introspection. Now from introspection, एक बहुत powerful idea है called reconciliation and forgiveness. This will be my next theme. Have I given an idea about कहाँ use कर सकते introspection now? See, I do not want you to write an essay on introspection, for heaven's sake. मुझे बस introspection idea लेकर 2 या 3 पैराग्राफ लिखना है. और कहाँ मैप कर सकते हो? Any turmoil, any conflict, any reforms, any cultural issues, like any type of education changes. Okay, you must have a list of what it means, and then explain कि हम reforms की बात कर रहे हैं. I mean, the government and the society must introspect. Why did our farms reform initiative collapse? It requires a deep, okay, because the idea suggested were not wrong. The farmer's intent was not wrong. And I want to believe the government's intent was also not wrong. The problems are intermediaries. The problems are lack of access to market. The problems are remunerative pricing. The problems are MSP issues, RN issues sometimes. सब कुछ issue सही था. Where did we go wrong? It requires introspection. What have we done today? I mean, देखो, ये बड़ा dangerous game चल रहा है. I mean, if you are slightly wise, you'll understand this. How is the West and America trying to court us? ये courtship चल रहा है. Where our PM goes and you find a big brohua and welcome Modi types. उससे 4-5 दिन पहले, 1 हफ्ते पहले कोई गंदा वाला statement आया होगा against India. After that, a resolution in the UN will be against India. India is going to France. EU passes some statement against India. इधर हम पेपर पढ़ रहे हैं कि India has come of age. India has leadership. India has this. And then एक छोटा सा news होगा that we are being criticized. And then we go all after them. How dare you say that, this, that, and colonial mindset and so on. Actually, this West, the Americans or people in power, they're very opportunist. ये कब पलटेंगे, कैसे पलटेंगे, you have no idea. What looks like pro-India can any day go anti-India. What looks like Indian sentiments are acknowledged, any day पासा पलट सकता है आपका. Any day. Pakistan at one time was, the best ally of allies of the US. Today it's a pariah state. A society needs introspection here. As a country, as a nation, where do we stand? He has listed down all the topics where he can use introspection. Be the change you want to see in others. 2013. Disinterested intellectual curiosity is the lifeblood of civilization. 1995. The pursuit of excellence. 2001. Search for truth can only be a spiritual problem. 2002. Discipline means success. Anarchy means ruin. 2008. Independent thinking should be encouraged right from the childhood. 2007. There's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. 2003. We may brave human laws, but cannot resist natural laws. 2017. Recent times mein, simplicity is ultimate sophistication. Maybe introspection based actions that makes it simple. Self-discovery has been outsourced, technologically outsourced. 21. Okay? So my discussion point was that the future trajectory of India in managing the geopolitics, the future course of action for India in managing global diplomacy requires a societal and a national level introspection. Okay? Acha. If you look at introspection in our say literature, think of the movie Life of Pi. I think you've heard about the movie definitely. It's a story on introspection actually. Alone in the sea with that Royal Bengal tiger, struggling, surviving, and is thinking to himself. That's one. और एक बड़ा famous किताब है, if you have read it, A Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy. I like, as I said, my movies range का taste जो है. Star Wars में there are these Jedi fighters, Jedi fighters, and they believe in this introspection. Look deep in the heart, and search for that life force. They talk about this idea. That is an energy called as force. ये बड़ा famous statement नहीं है. May the force be with you. Have you heard this statement? यहाँ पर force, the word comes from Star Wars movies. So they talk about that the power is inside the heart. You must unravel it. And that's the source of all the power. Introspection. All of them talk about meditation. They all talk about the deep thinking. And Gandhi ji ka jo fast as a tool tha na, it was one type of introspection tool. Where am I going wrong? The calling of the agitation after the Chauri Chaura incident was introspection. A whole act of our sadhu munis retiring to the forests and thinking, meditation. Yes, the true struggle strategy includes introspection. Okay, so fine. You have some examples from the history, some books you can talk about. अच्छा, ये 2-3 paintings के बारे में बताना चाहेंगे. There is one painting by Shen Zhao. Okay, and the painting's name is Poet on a Mountaintop. Shenzhou. Shenzhou. I'm showing that to you. So look at this one. It is this painting. You can see this mountain, okay, and this guy here. That withdraw from the world, all alone, looking into infinity, okay, looking into endless world in ahead of him. If you know that movie called as Shawshank Redemption, suna aapne movie? Brilliant movie. And he is sitting on the seaside और मॉर्गन फ्रीमैन का बैकड्रॉप में नरेशन चल रहा है तो उसमें एक सेंटेंस ये है इट सेज दैट पैसिफिक ओशन हैज नो मेमोरीज as in Mexico, correct, he says this, the Pacific Ocean has no memories. It's an opportunity to start off all over again. This comes from the introspection कि आप अकेले बैठे हैं. The whole act requires what? The solitude, okay, that inward looking without distractions, that sense of you being infinitely small. ये वही चीज कैप्चर करता है. Okay, the painting's name is Poet on a Mountaintop. Mention this one. एक और बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग वाला है, and these are in the museum put up. I'll show that to you. Most of the renowned painters and artists, they make their own self-portraits. Okay, सभी ने बनाया है. And invariably, they make a self-portrait looking at themselves in the mirror. And when they draw, you'll find a range of emotions. Some of them show themselves as happy, unhappy, angry, frustrated. So ये वाला painting of Pablo Picasso है, The Girl Before a Mirror. Is one of the very famous paintings of introspection. The girl itself, you can see the two sides to the girl. And the mirror captures something very different. Okay, so this shows the myriad confusion, the challenge of the fleeting thoughts, the challenge of identity. Okay, this painting captures. These kind of art forms, समझने के लिए you need an idea called as cubism. There's a different art form that we have. I won't go into that right now. But at least mention this. This is an example of how you confront who you are deep within. Pablo Picasso, A Girl Before a Mirror. This one is very interesting. I'll show this to you. There's a lady called as Candy Chang. Okay, Candy Chang, she lost someone very close to her suddenly. Okay, she lost somebody. And that inspired her to think about life and what is most important to her. In response, so she got into the introspection mode. Okay, I lost somebody in life. कि life का क्या मतलब है? Why are we doing this and all of that? And then it says, what she did was she converted an old building in New Orleans in US to an interactive public art piece by making a big wall into a chalkboard with a phrase, "Before I die." I'll show that to you one. एक और दिखाता हूं मैं आपको. So what she did was, she said, I'm introspecting and I want all others to do so. She took up an old building. उसका पूरा wall को she converted that into a blackboard. And she wrote, "Before I die, before I die, before I die, before I die," and left blank. And she told people, come and write on that. Whatever introspection is. It's considered as a great interactive piece of art. And look at the messages that I'm just showing this to you, okay? This is the building. A pura wall. This entire wall is "Before I die." दिख रहा है आपको ये lines दिख रहा है यहाँ पर? And the messages it has is very inspiring. She tells, come and write it down. Okay, all colors में जो भी है. And the messages are, I'll show you some of the message. Here it is. Before I die, I want to see equality. Before I die, I want to find love and die. Before I die, I want to write a novel. Swim out, holding my nose. Change the world with true love and compassion. Be published. Before I die, I want to own a boat. Before I die, okay, have my life made into a movie. Before I die, I want to own my own house. Okay, I mean, आप घर जाके देख लेना इसको. Okay, and this is considered as one of the very true expressions of self-introspection, where nobody is watching और आप लिख रहे हैं. इसमें बहुत ही inspiring वाले हैं इसमें. Before I die, I want to tell my mother I love her. Before I die, I want to evaporate into the light and travel the world. Before I die, I want to raise my children. I mean, this sentence you can see emotions. This guy probably who was away from his children or some fight with a mother and parents. Before I die, I would like to hike the Appalachians. Before I die, I want to walk at least once in my life. Can you imagine, okay, who this person would have been? Before I die, I want to believe. I want one good embrace. Before I die, I want my wife back. Before I die, I mean, आप पढ़ेंगे ना, it's very emotional thing. आप 15-20 पढ़ लो, आप बंद करके बैठ जाओगे यार. Before I die, what do I want to do? So it's a good one to write about. So these names याद रखें, 4-5 names. Okay, this lady is Candy Chang. This is one work of art. 2011 का ये work piece है. अच्छा, ये वाला एक बहुत interesting है. There is a museum in Indianapolis, Museum of Indianapolis, Museum of Art. Indianapolis Museum of Art, an art by Dohosuh, D-O-H-O-S-U-H, Dohosuh. So आपके essays में ना, these can be the introduction parts also, describing some of these. Now in this museum, there is a exhibit called as the floor, in which there is a glass sheet and there are a lot of dots. There are a lot of dots on that, and you can walk on it. But if you look closely, वो dots नहीं है. They are small sculptures and images of people standing and holding the glass. Okay, so let me show that to you how it looks like. Can you all see this one here? This is that some person. Can you see the shoes here? Okay, and these are those dots. Look at dots. They look like flowers, no? They look like flowers. It's not as clear. But if पास से देखेंगे ना, if you see it from close, look at this. There are people standing. दिख रहा है ये वाला? Small images of people standing. So it said that when you walk on it and then you realize you're walking on it, it's an introspection moment. You are the product of how many people supporting you. आपके life में, okay, it's like, you know, मैं अकेला कर जाऊंगा, I will do it alone. It's not like that. God knows how many people have come together intently or without intent, and they're holding things for you. आप ये class देखो ना, I'm taking for granted. बिजली चल रहा है, पंखा चल रहा है. Okay, the system is on here. Okay, I am teaching. Somebody helped me make some material. What you see as me delivering is a product of God knows how many people working together. Me coming on the car, me crossing the ITO, you know, somebody repairing there. God knows. So this is a work of art that captures that aspect. It's called as the floor. Okay, the floor. I'll read a paragraph from this. I'm reading it, okay? You can go back and check on all of this. If we happen upon this artwork at the Indianapolis Museum of Art, you would see a glass floor with many colored dots underneath. As you get closer, you notice there are hundreds or little plastic action figures of everyday people holding up the weight of you and the glass floor. Walking on top of these people, you might think about the power of community, how the individual is small, but the collective is powerful. You might think about all the people who support you in your day-to-day life, who go unseen, from the people across the world who make your clothes, okay, or the men and women who pick up your trash daily. Okay, this is an art that tells you you are nothing in front of the people who support and make you. The introspection thing, no? वैसे ही एक there is one art form by, it is Anish Kapoor's art. Anish Kapoor is a modern sculptor, okay? You must look him up. He is all over the world. And उनका एक installation है in Chicago, if I'm not wrong. दिख रहा है ये वाला? It's a shape, nothing else. And very polished. It's like a mirror reflection. And nobody knows what it means. But you can stand there, you can stare at that, you can make faces on it. Okay, people spend hours looking at it. So some say that this is an art form that forces introspection. Okay, इसमें आपका face distorted दिखाई देगा. Okay, it forces you to think, at least thinking about what was he trying to make. Okay, it's shaped like a bean. It's called as the Cloud Gate, the bean. I'll read about it something. Cloud Gate is a public sculpture by Indian-born British artist Anish Kapoor in the Millennium Park in Chicago. Shaped like a bean. It's made up of 168 stainless steel plates welded together, highly polished, with no visible seams. Anish says, I hope what I have done is a serious work which deals with serious questions about form, public space, and object. It should capture imagination and hold interest and force people think what it is and who they are in relation to these objects. Art form ka, it's not a museum. Okay, it is a park. So art form का एक important reason होता है और importance होता है. The art form forces you to think. We don't evaluate art form in terms of how realistic they are. जनरली हमारा होता है कि अच्छा पेंटिंग क्या इतना रियल लग रहा है, इतना अच्छा पेंटिंग क्या, it's almost like a photograph. But in actual art appreciation, वो important नहीं है. The more important is, does the art form make you think or not? Does it force you to introspect or not? We have got lot of such art forms. जो आप देख के आप सोचने मजबूर होंगे कहना क्या चाह रहा है, what was the idea, the expressions, the eyes. So this is an example of a modern sculpture. Glass floor ka name is floor. So I think you can handle this topic now. Introspections, importance, some examples, the relevance. Okay, why I'm saying introspection is a personal thing, inward-looking thing. You can handle it now. Let's move on towards the next one. Idea of reconciliation and forgiveness. ये अभी बहुत जगह आपके essays में आ सकता है. Let me explain this to you first. So when I say forgiveness, इसके alternate words होगा to get over, to move on, to condone, to reconcile, to pardon. So some of these words mean forgiveness, but forgiveness are of different types. You reconcile, and somewhere you accept. You pardon somebody, you forgive somebody. एक और technical word में clemency, technical legal word में you giving forgiveness के अलग-अलग forms हैं. Form number one is forgiveness. One realizes, when one realizes that the act was unintentional and the act was an accident. This is one type of forgiveness. ठीक है, somebody hurt me, मुझे चोट लगा, मैं गिर गया, मेरा हाथ टूट गया, and then you realize कि यार it's an accident. There's no point nurturing that anger, that bitterness, that animosity. The second is forgiveness when the doer genuinely regrets and apologizes. दो लोग थे, one somebody commits an act and maybe the act was intentional, but then there's the realization कि यार ये intentional नहीं था. It was intentional, but it is a mistake. Okay, it should not have happened. And then you ask for forgiveness. Okay, so एक type का प्रायश्चित भी होगा शायद, atonement भी होगा, and so on. And then you accept and move over. एक third है where the doer unapologetic. The doer is probably continues to bully, but one must move on. ये तीन तरह के forgiveness है. Of these three forgiveness, this perhaps is the easiest one. This is not as easy, but this helps you rebuild relationships, but there's always an element of be cautious. Once bitten, twice shy. ठीक है, मुझे धोखा हुआ, जिसने धोखा दिया, he has regretted, apologized, and genuinely दिल से किया. And I said, okay, let's be done. Okay, we are दोस्त again. But okay, this will make you a bit more cautious. It's like you have grown up now. You never know कौन धोखा दे सकता है आपको. और ये वाला जो है, where the person who has committed the crime or that event is not apologetic. Okay, he probably is still putting the blame on you, and you must move on. Forgiveness of this kind is the most difficult. इसमें relationships actually are not mended. Think of survivors of abuse. Think of survivors of riots, conflicts. Think of the victims of wars. Think of even our personal lives. There are some people who have bullied us, who have actually harmed us, and they're moving around freely. Okay, we have seen the post-conflict traumas. Okay, think of that lady in Gujarat, no, who was abused, assaulted. These guys go behind the bar, and now they're out of the bar, out of the jail, and this woman is moving around like helpless, right? And I'm sure all of us somewhere empathize there, but you have to move on. ये तीन अलग level के forgiveness हैं. In these two, you actually are forgiving the other person. In this one, you are kind of accepting the truth and you are removing your own anger and your guilt also probably. बहुत बार यहाँ पर a person is guilt ridden. शायद मेरे वजह से ऐसा हुआ. Lot of women have this issue here. I was abused because maybe I was wrong. And the society makes it a point to rub it on you. Because you were like this, you were behaving so, you were putting on that kind of a dress, you were at the wrong place, good girls don't do this, good boys don't do that. आपने tempting किया है, you live with a guilt there. This forgiveness is more about accepting and acknowledging your own thing and moving on. Introspection यहाँ सबसे important है. Not introspection to know where you were wrong, but introspection to accept the truth, to reconcile and become guilt free. आपने वो movie देखा है Highway? Have you seen the movie called Highway? None of you? Alia Bhatt? Yes, Randeep Hooda वाला. ये कहानी है. Or if you know this movie called Monsoon Wedding, ये कहानी है. This story is Dil Chahta Hai. Okay, this is Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. If you have seen these movies. So now ये कैसे essays में आएगा? There are a lot of essays that are on these 4 themes. One theme of essays, again, courage hai, bravery wale themes hai. Okay, a very important courage, bravery theme includes forgiveness. इसमें बहुत courage चाहिए. ये सबसे आसान है. ठीक है, I know यार गलती नहीं था, वो accept it, गले मिल लिया, and we are back to old relationship. No harm, no anger. इसमें थोड़ा सा anger रहेगा कि तूने मुझे धोखा दिया था यार. But ठीक है, you have said sorry, I let you go. This is the most difficult one. It requires a different level of maturity here. So essays which are on courage, on bravery, essays which are on explorations. Take the exploration theme towards relationship explorations. Again, any essay जिसमें कि angle of conflict आ सकता है, conflict or an essay around disagreements. This can be one of the discussion points. Think of climate change. Okay, think of rights. Think of wars. Learning from the history. वहां पर these two can come. ठीक है. So I'm building from here. हाँ लिख लो, please write down. This I said. There are many examples of this one where both the parties did things unintentionally, and you move on. There is this forgive is not the right word, but फिर भी उसका आ सकता है. Do you know a story called as The Gift of Magi by O. Henry, I think. Saki, I forget. I think O. Henry. Gift of Magi. इसमें बहुत movies ही बनी है. Husband wife deeply in love and not doing very well in life. Not well off. The husband has a watch, but वो पहन नहीं पाता है. Why? There's no chain. There's no strap probably. And the wife has beautiful hair, okay, but she, whatever. So the husband wants to gift his wife and the wife wants to give her husband. So what they can gift, they don't have much money. So what the wife does is she cuts off her hair and takes the money and buys a gold chain for the watch of her husband. Meanwhile, the husband has sold the watch and bought a beautiful comb and a clip for his wife, for her hair. So when they're exchanging gifts, both of them realize that, they have done something different. So it's not exactly forgiveness, but it is an act of acceptance. पहले तो गुस्सा आया कि मैं तुम्हारे लिए ये लेके आया, तुमने वो काट दिया. I bought a gold chain for you and you have sold off your watch. Okay, there's an anger. Then the realization, this is a different level of commitment for one another. Magi were those people, saints type के थे, who when Jesus Christ was born, they come with gifts to honor the young baby Jesus Christ. It's considered as one of the biggest gifts somebody could have given. तो उस टाइप के रेफरेंस में इसमें बहुत सारे एग्जांपल्स होंगे, दोस्ती के, फ्रेंडशिप्स के. तो ये लिख सकते हैं आप. यहाँ पर लिख सकते हो about that movie I said. दिल चाहता है as an example of this, when about Amir Khan, he ultimately apologizes and Vinod Khanna says, okay, fine. Okay. Or Dil, or Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, where Farhan Akhtar has had an affair with the girlfriend of one of the person. Ultimately, they reconcile, okay, maaf karte, move on, types. But this is different. This is the best example है highway movie. You move on in life. Okay, a sense of completion and you move on. You can use this in any of these essays. Because see देखो, एक बहुत important aspect of solving problems is reconciliation. Reconciliation मतलब क्या होता है? That जो हो गया सो हो गया, accept it. Now let's move on and look ahead without blaming one another. That's reconciliation. You talk about reconciliation with our parents, with our friends, with society, with our past. How long will you keep on blaming? Okay, the British are responsible for whatever we are. How long will you keep blaming? Okay, that the West was careless and they have done global warming and now we are suffering. How long will you keep on blaming? Okay, ये childhood trauma मेरा ऐसे था and I was so wronged और मुझे भी अभी भी गुस्सा है. I think every person I've come across, somewhere they have some trauma in their lives where they feel they have been wronged. या आपके अंदर भी होगा. And lot of these traumas are related to childhood and sometimes related to our parents also and siblings. We don't realize this. Many families में there's a lot of trauma of sibling rivalry and it can get really bitter. So reconciliation is accepting that and moving on. हमारे इंडिया में जो प्रॉब्लम्स हैं about caste है, about communal violence है, okay, we keep on reliving the old past. Partition is done. Pakistan is made a separate country. How long will you keep on beating that and torture the people who are in the country? It's over. It's done with it now. खत्म करो, आगे बढ़ते हैं इसको. How long will you keep on blaming okay, the inaction of the past governments? Okay, अब आगे बढ़ें. Reconciliation is what Sri Lanka has tried. कि we are done. खत्म हो गया. War हो जितने लोग मर चुके हैं. Okay, let's move on now. Reconciliation is what South Africa has tried. The racism, the apartheid. कब तक आप ये black white करते रहोगे? यार, move on now. India needs lot of reconciliation. History reconciliation, caste reconciliation, okay, our communal reconciliations. How long will you keep on tormenting the present and future generation and humiliate them every day, every night? It's done, it's over. Now move on. So reconciliation is essentially something like forgiveness. We call this as coming to terms. आप ये idea use कर सकते हो for any trauma-based essay. Like I said, women issues. It's unfortunate, it's terrible that some women have been abused, they have faced atrocities. It is painful reliving all of that. But somewhere you got to move on. ये आप ही केस में अप्लाई करेगा, God forbid, for some of you. Move on. नहीं qualify हुआ, attempts are done. There's a bigger life ahead. Go now, okay, explore that. Okay, Khalistan movement का revival partly is because of the anger. Okay, and get over that. So any essay जिसमें कि there are examples around turmoils, trauma, incompleteness, a sense of wrong prevails. Talk about this one. तो आपके essay ना ये दो जगह खेल जाएगा. One is introspection. Okay, think about it. Okay, relive it in some ways. Accept the fact you are not guilty and you have to move on. You have to come to terms. ये अपने आप में बन जाएगा ये 2 या 3 पैराग्राफ. ये जो 2 acts हैं, reconciliation and introspection, they are a step towards what we call as okay, personal and societal level mental liberation. You liberate yourself. ये बड़ा famous story है ना, that 3 monks were going along the river and they come across some women, some ladies who could not cross the river. So one of the monks says, I'll help you. He carries the lady and crosses over. And they resume their journey. One monk, after a long time, very agitated, he tells the other guy, you have done such a big sin. You're not supposed to touch women. आपने उसको पकड़ा भी, उठाया भी, क्रॉस भी कराया और आप आराम से चल रहे हो. Okay. The other guy said, I left that woman 1 kilometer away. You are still carrying her in your mind. Okay, so move on. I don't know if you've heard this story or not. You don't carry things with yourself all your life. That's reconciliation. It's about mental liberation. So हमारे बहुत सारे जो हमारे traumas होते हैं, our trauma, our pain, our sense of incompleteness. They're because we are not able to forgive and reconcile. So again, the last जो essay का जो last section है, way forward में सारा आ जाएगा. Way forward includes introspection. Way forward includes reconciliation. In geopolitics, it's a very important aspect, reconciliation. Essentially, you can't keep that grudge of punishing somebody all your life. You got to move on, reconcile and move on. I think a very nice story you can talk about is Sara dikh jayega aapko in the movie called Bahubali. Katappa's act, introspection, that guilt that he had, and Bahubali 2 comes back, reconciles, they're part of one, they forgive, and they fight back again. Pick up stories from there. You're reconciling. Yes, this is it. Is it okay, all of you? Mahabharata is not reconciliation. Mahabharata example of going the entire way. Okay, so that will be a wrong example. Wahan par forgive, forget nahi hai. You must know where to use what examples. Where to use what examples. So now you can write something down here. So ek word hai called as forbearance. Under forgiveness, there's one word called as forbearance. Forbearance has an element of tolerance, a kind of partial forgiveness where the perpetuator or the doer is not entirely apologetic. Sometimes the apology tendered is not authentic, but accepting that and moving on is something like forgive but don't forget. The virtue of trust but verify. This is a very important form of forgiveness that applies to most of us in our daily lives. Now, dekho, I want to link this with geopolitics. Khaskar, India's relationship with its neighbors. India generally feels that we have been wronged by Pakistan, that we have been wronged by Bangladesh, we have been wronged by Maldives. हमने आपको इतना हेल्प किया, फ्रेंडशिप किया, ये दिया, वो दिया. नेपाल के साथ में we have a sense of being wrong. Okay, we gave, and you are now becoming friend with China. एक वो गुस्सा है इंडिया में. Maybe in Bhutan के साथ है, because now Bhutan has some overtures with China also. So in geopolitics, this is a very important attribute, forbearance, which is somewhere you have to move on, but don't forget what's happening. You can't be blind. Okay, we have examples of US abandoning us. Okay, 71 war mein US actually was on side of, be it Pokhran tests, US was against us. Whether you talk about terrorism, US didn't support us. But forbearance is the quality we have to practice. We have to move on, not hold grudge, but we have to be careful that this can again come back and haunt us. So we have to mend ways. हम हमेशा try करते हैं, let's start to mend ways. Okay, let's have another track to diplomacy. Let's have another trade agreement. Let's have another summit level interaction. But not forgetting कि ये बंदा can't be trusted every time. So use this discussion on any of these issues, topics. Diplomacy में China के साथ बहुत important है. You can't trust China at all. At the same time, you can't really have an enemy as big as China at your borders. You have to have trade. Kal hi baat hui na, UK says, China officially says, China has entered all aspects of the economy and society. Now live with it. Yes, the whole act of engagement must go on. Example of forbearance type of forgiveness. So ye hai, couple of words you have to use, play around with them. Know these tricky words. So now, इससे related है one more sentiment, the virtue of empathy. Empathy is essentially living and acknowledging somebody's conditions and compulsions. You are looking at something from the perspective of who they are, what they are, and how they are doing. The virtues of empathy. Without empathy, there can be no true forgiveness. So ये तीन चीज ना मैप हो जाता है आपके essays में. Like आराम से आपका 1.5-2 पेज बनेगा. 3 things. ये linked one another. Courage, introspection, forgiveness, forbearance, and reconciliation. All fine? So now, come back to your essay canvas. आपके पास दो बॉक्स है. One box is the box of insights. One is the box of values. And there are two boxes here, जो support boxes हैं. One is those levels, personal, social, national, okay, international. और एक है those art, music, paintings, movies, whatever I gave you till, and of course, don't forget the way forward box. So ये जो virtues of courage, exploration, okay, curiosity, okay, exploration, curiosity, introspection, okay, forgiveness. This can be mapped to any of these. हर essay में एक दो fit हो जाएगा आपका. Your way forward can always include introspection and forgiveness. अगर वो use कर रहे हो, use movies to support that. A lot of insights comes from courage, exploration, curiosity. ये सारे values भी हैं. Courage is a value, forgiveness is a value, empathy is a value. That completes your essay canvas and your themes based on some of these attributes. That's one cue. Second cue is, ये सब चीज लगाने के लिए you must map your essay to cultural and historical issues. Map your essay to geopolitical conflicts. Map your essays to problems and turmoils. हर essay में ये fit हो सकता है. There will be a cultural element, there will be a geopolitical conflict element, there will be a element of turmoils, problems, challenges. Like, और किसी level में हो सकता है. It can be at a personal level, social level, global level. So when you're thinking an essay, this canvas is one, and look for these elements. इसमें आपका ये आराम से fit होगा. You'll have no problem in fitting this. Done? So I think I have covered all the points I had to cover. So in your values, जो quadrant था आपका, I have covered some of this. You remember those quadrant वाला values दिया था मैंने? The leadership one, the self-introspection one, and the feelings and the emotion wala. So I've covered topics like respect and empathy. ये हो गया आपका forgiveness में. Here I've added the idea of peace, forgiveness, gratitude, leadership में courage, okay, again empathy. आप इसी से खेलें, आप इसी से. That's about it. My recommendation to all of you is, though I've given you some of these quotes and the rest, okay, you can do maybe a half day's work. Okay, बस यही 4-5 theme में quotation बना लेना. 4, 5, 10 quotes on courage, 4, 5, 10 quotes on empathy, forgiveness, reconciliation, curiosity. और आपको दिया भी है मैंने आपको. There is one quote आप लिख सकते हो on forgiveness if you go back. Forgiveness and और introspection में भी आएगा. In Star Wars, this guy called Yoda. Okay, Yoda, he tells his boy Anakin. Anakin is a small boy who becomes ultimately Darth Vader. He tells him, I sense fear in you. Fear leads to anger, and anger leads to hatred. It's a very powerful quote. I see fear in you. Fear leads to anger, and fear leads to hatred. In fact, Star Wars movies, the main dark character is a thing called as a person thing hoga called as a Darth Vader. He's like the Lord of the Dark World. And as a child, this character was a boy called as Anakin. Anakin converts. He's a very brilliant boy, very spirited boy, good brains. He is training to become a Jedi warrior. Jedi warrior is a very high form of a warrior. But then he loses track because he sees his mother getting murdered. Okay, so he always had a fear that he will lose his mother, and he lost his mother. And then it was anger, hatred. He ultimately loses his son, he loses his wife. He becomes a very dark character called Darth Vader. When he's a young boy, okay, there's this man, there's this thing, not a man, okay, called as Yoda. Okay, and Yoda tells him, Anakin, you cannot become the Jedi. Why? Because I see fear in you. Okay, and the fear leads to anger, and anger to hatred. So introspection, man, this can be a very powerful idea. You can dwell on this. Okay, fine then. All the best. Bye-bye.